So take your slowest unit, the Orc Boy. He's got a shooter, which is an Assault 2 with 18 inches of range, and the boy has a movement of 5. 18 plus 5, so you're looking at a threat range of 23. Wow, I did that right. Sometimes I'm not terrible. I was going to create a video today about how to create a kill team for orcs, talk about the cheapest way to get into orcs as a kill team, and then progressively kind of the best way, the most optimum way if you were wanting to start from scratch with orcs, I meant, Freudian slip. If you wanted to start from scratch with orcs, but then be able to build your way up to a full 40k army, and all different ways of doing it, and the best units, how they're valuable, how they aren't, pros, cons, etc. However, I wanted to do that with multiple different kill teams, starting with orcs, then probably doing Tau, Necrons, Deathwatch, Drukhari, and probably either Thousand Suns or Grey Knights. And it occurred to me that there were a few basic things that you needed to know regardless of the team, the kill team that you were running, and there was no point saying the same basics in every single one. So I thought, let's start with a few basic rules that everyone can be aware of. So these will be a few hints and tips, things to keep in your head when you're creating any sort of kill team. So for creating the kill teams, I'm focusing on match play, the idea that you will want to be kind of competitive. Because if you're doing open play, do whatever you want. It really doesn't matter. And if you're playing narrative, well, the game is kind of designed that, you know, maybe you want to do some sort of wave system, and it's not meant to be balanced in that way. Or it should be balanced, but not equally balanced between two players playing a number of points. So we're thinking of it in a vaguely competitive sort of way, although I hesitate to use the phrase competitive. It's far too early in this game's life cycle to know if it's going to be a competitive game. But let's go over the rules. So you are allowed to have a, what's it called? I can't remember. This is good, YouTube. So roster, command roster, Jesus. So let's try it again. You are allowed to go into a competitive tournament according to the way that Kill Team says it. We haven't had a Kill Team tournament yet. They may do it differently. The meta may pan out. You're not allowed to do this. But the way it's stated in Kill Team, in the rules, is that you are allowed to take a 20-member command roster. That isn't your Kill Team. That is your command roster. When you then go in to take a kill team, you are allowed 100 points. Those 100 points come from your command roster. That's how it works. So your command roster, for example, may be, who knows, 5 Orc Burner Boys, 10 Orc Boys, and then 5 Orc Commandos, right? So that's a 20-man team. But if you total the points up for that, you'd be up into, 200s or whatever, 160-ish. Obviously, that's not going to work. So when you go to a tournament, you will have your 20-man command roster. And the way it works is you decide a mission, you find your opponent, so you know who you're playing, and you know the mission that you're doing. Then, with those 2 bits of information, you take your command roster and you build a 100-point kill team. That's how it says it in the book. The only other restriction, mandatory rule, is that your kill team has to have 1 leader. No more, no less. You can only take 1 leader in, but you have to take a leader in. So, with that in mind, how do you go about picking a command roster? Your command roster isn't your ideal kill team, because in theory, unless something turns out to be exceptionally broken, there isn't one individual kill team that anybody can do that will beat everything else. You should be able to see, oh, okay, I'm in the capture mission, whatever that one's called. Take prisoners. I'm in the take prisoners mission. That means I need all of my guys to be good at close combat. So I'm not going to take any of my ranged guys. It's all close combat. And okay, so the other army can outshoot me, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to win all of the victory points by taking my guys in. Close combat specialists, etc. That is the purpose of it. Another little interesting thing of note, actually, is that in the kill team rules, match play includes 3 and 4 player games. So 2, 3, 4 players, all okay according to the kill team rules for match play. Do I think there's ever going to be a 4-player competitive kill team tournament? No, but it's there. If we choose to ignore it, so be it, that's fine. Okay, so let's take a look at the missions. Why are we looking at the missions? Good question. Because the missions are what decide our kill team, or more precisely, our command roster. I said that the wrong way around. They dictate our kill teams, not our command roster. I'm really good at this. Okay, up first we have sweep and clear. Okay, this is pretty simple. There are 4 objectives spaced 5 inches out from the middle of the board. Again, we're doing, ignore that, that's for 4 players. We're doing this one, 2 players. And so that means, if we think about it, the most we will ever be, well, our realistic combat engagement range for sweep and clear is 10 inches, right? 10 inches is the max we're ever going to really be, and you're mainly going to skirmish around here because you're trying to claim your objectives. So, for example, when building a kill team for sweep and clear, you know you've got 10 inches. You either want to get a kill team together that has at least a 20-inch range so that you are not taking your -1 to hit from being at over half range or being at long range with your guns. Or you want to be able to get guys that can easily make a 10-inch charge. Is that doable? Maybe. I should probably read the different kill teams. I can't really answer that yet. Next video, you know. So, but anyway, it's good to know if you're going for the sweep and clear mission, 10 inches, that's your engagement distance. And all you are trying to do is hold those victory positions, okay? The 4. If you hold 2 and your enemy holds 2, then it comes down to who gets the most kills. Let's see. So yes, you get 3 victory points per objective marker held, and then you get 1 victory point for each enemy model taken out of action. And there's no bonus for killing the leader either, which is interesting. Next up, take prisoners. This is the one I just kind of gave an example of. Your kill teams start 12 inches away, and the way that you get victory points in this one is entering melee, well, is by capturing capturing members of the enemy team. And the way you do that is engaging in melee with them and taking them out of action. And that means they count as captured. Yes, so with this one, you get 3 victory points for capturing their leader. And then you get 1 victory point for capturing any other model. Now again, if you just kill them, you don't get any victory points. So even if you wipe out the enemy team, you will draw. If you wipe out the enemy team at range, you draw. That might be fine for you, but you don't win. Recover intelligence is very similar to sweep and clear, the first mission, except there is a fifth victory point, which is directly in the middle of the board. So you get, I believe it's 1 VP, yep, 1 victory point for holding all of the outer, what are they called? Objectives, that's the one. And 3 victory points for holding the inner. Okay, so when you're thinking about that, I'm instantly thinking the middle is going to be hell. You want close range, you probably want melee, but you're going to want to push your melee out further beyond the objective to kind of keep yourself with, keep yourself lined up so the enemy can't get past you. And then you have maybe a guy with ranged on the objective. Then you also want guys with range on the other objectives, obviously, so they can shoot in. But yeah, that's going to be hot, that's for sure. And then we get terror tactics. Now, that's a bit of an interesting one. So here, sorry, I will try to say that without having my voice break. So here, with terror tactics, you score 2 victory points for every one of your models that goes off of the enemy's deployment zone, directly across from yours, okay? Easy enough. However, you can still win this just by killing the enemy team, because it quite clearly says here, if the battle ends because there was only one unbroken kill team on the battlefield, that kill team's player wins. Otherwise, each player scores 2 victory points for each of their models that have broken through enemy lines. And 1 victory point for each enemy model taken out of action by your models. So you can just kill them, which means I suspect terror tactics is, in a competitive sense, very much just going to be about kill the enemy. This is almost the most straight up kill mission that the book has, because there are actually no straight up you must kill the enemy missions. They all have an objective, whether it's an objective to hold or, in this case, running somebody off the board. If you capture objectives and don't die, you will probably win. That's how kill team tends to work. Except in this one, where you can just kill them. Hello everyone. My camera messed up, so I'm back, and I've forgotten everything that I said. I think I had just finished covering the missions. Right. So when you're building your command roster, other things to keep in mind are certain special rules. For example, fly. Actually, Tau get the most flyers in their lists because stealth suits and drones have the fly special. What does fly do? Fair question. So fly allows you to move over terrain as if terrain was not there. So you don't have to climb or jump off terrain, which means you can move across the board as if nothing's there. Very powerful just for the movement alone. Harlequins can do that as well because they have the flip belt special rule, but they can't fly because fly does one other thing as well, which is after you have retreated or fallen back, you can still shoot. And that, especially for Tau, is very, very powerful. So if you have the ability to get some unit that can fly, definitely do it. On to things like weapons, so flamers. Why flamers? Because they auto hit. Okay, they only have an 8-inch range, but when you're playing kill team, there's so many minus to hit modifiers that an auto hit weapon is really powerful. Most flamers are D6, so you could potentially be getting 6 hits on a single model. That's really good. Or multiple models, of course, as we will cover in a moment. If your weapon has multiple shots, then those shots can be spread out. Let's say you are targeting this dice, right? And it has 2 guys within 2 inches of it. This is confusing now. Let's say there's one guy within 2 inches of this dice. Wow, my metaphors are good. Let's say there is one enemy unit within 2 inches of your target. Well, and let's say you have a flamer and you've rolled a d6. How many shots do you get? 5. You can then split those 5 shots between your 2 targets. You can get 4 on your main target, 1 on the other. However you want to split it, you can do that. So, obviously, any weapon that has multiple shots is instantly better than a weapon with a single shot. And not just because you do more damage, but because you can do more damage to more things. Okay, so also, if you have a model that has more than a single shooting weapon, ranged weapon, that's the correct word, that model with multiple ranged weapons can fire both of the weapons with no penalties to hit or wound or anything like that. So, for example, orcs get a combi weapon Scorcher or a combi weapon rocket launcher, which is a shooter and a burner, or a shooter and a rocket launcher. The boss mob that shoots that can fire both the shooter part of it and the burner or the rocket launcher with no penalties, which instantly makes multi-weapons like that really good. But, rein it back in, pistols are not included in that, because there's a rule that if you fire a pistol in your turn, you cannot fire any other type of weapon. So if you had multiple pistols, you could fire them, but you cannot fire, for example, a heavy or an assault if you are firing a pistol as well. Also, a little rules niggle on pistols there. If you are charged, let's use dice because people like visuals, right? So, let's say this is you get charged. You have a pistol. So you get charged in the movement phase, it goes to the shooting phase, you have a pistol, you want to shoot it. You're within 1 inch, pistols can be shot within 1 inch, so you can't shoot because it very specifically states, and this is an easy thing to miss, but it very specifically states that you cannot shoot a pistol on the turn that you are charged. There you go. Next turn, no problem, you can fire. Also, a lot of people may equip pistols thinking, I'm going to use this pistol in melee combat. That's fine, but actually keep in mind that the actual rule is that you are allowed to fire a pistol within 1 inch of an enemy. That's all a pistol does. It's not actually a close combat attack, and so you are still making those pistol shots in the shooting phase, not the close combat phase. Very important to remember. For example, the Tau kill team, all of their fire warriors and all of their breachers can take 3 pistols. There is no reason to not take pistols with the Tau kill team. Much like how multiple ranged weapons can be shot at multiple people and multiple damage weapons can split its damage among different units within 2 inches. If you have multiple attacks, which there are plenty of people here that have more than 1 attack. Let's pick something interesting, shall we? What have we got? Attacks 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Okay, the Eldar aren't the best for this. Drakari. Come on, witches. They must have crazy attacks, surely. Okay, so you've got a witch Hecatrix, right? You've got 3 attacks. You go ahead and let's say your witch Hecatrix has multiple different close combat weapons. So she's can split her 3 attacks up among any of her weapons. So let's say she's got a stabby thing. A Hydra Gauntlet, that's a word. Let's say she's got a Hydra Gauntlet. She can do 2 attacks with that, and then possibly 1 attack with a Shardnet Impaler, if that has a particular special rule she wants to use. The same can be said for if you have multiple models that you are in close combat with. Your witch can opt to do 2 attacks here, 1 attack here. You can split that up however you want, and among any number of weapons you want that you have for melee combat. Okay, another thing to keep in mind when you are building your command roster is mortal wounds. They are super useful. A great source of these are Psychers. I know that Thousand Suns also have an icon of flame. Roll a d6 for each model from your kill team equipped with an icon of flame, which, by the way, is always 1, because only one person can take it. So that's odd phrasing. But on a 6, you inflict 1 mortal wound on the closest enemy model within 12 inches. So, you know, that's a nice little way to get another mortal wound into that army, and it only costs 1 point, I think, maybe 5. So the icon of flame there gives you mortal wound. Psychers, Cybolt is always hitting as a mortal wound. There's lots of ways to get mortal wounds, but just remember that a mortal wound is going to, well, you've got to roll to hit, but then it automatically gets through wound rolls and armor rolls. So very useful. Okay, so another thing to consider is the board size you're going to be playing on. The board size for all of Kill Team is 30 inches by 22 inches. So for any of you that have already played some Kill Team, you will probably already know just how easy it is to get into melee combat. But potentially when you're first building your Kill Team, you're thinking, oh, a sniper, that's a great idea because they're shooting at 48 inches. Great. Except the longest you're ever going to need to shoot is 30 inches. And actually the chances of you being right at the back of a board and the other enemy being right at the back of a board and you having a clear line of sight, almost nothing. So it doesn't matter that much, actually. So think of the DS8 turret for the town. If you equip that with a smart missile system, the smart missile system has a 30-inch range, and it doesn't require line of sight. It's a heavy 4, and it hits on 6s. Now, that means that DS8 turret can hit you literally anywhere on the board, even though it's only a 30-inch range. Something to keep in mind. And you've got to think about threat ranges. Okay, don't just think, oh, this orc boy has a shooter, it's 18 inches, well, I'm 20 inches away, I'm fine. Even an orc shooter can probably hit you first turn if you're not behind cover, if you're not obscured. So take your slowest unit, the orc boy. He's got a shooter, which is an assault 2 with 18 inches of range, and the boy has a movement of 5. 18 plus 5, so you're looking at a threat range of 23. Wow, I did that right. Sometimes I'm not terrible. So anyway, the slowest unit in the game, plus a gun with less range than a bolter, given no terrain, can hit you anywhere on the board first turn. This possibly makes it a bit more obvious why your board should be covered in terrain and why there are so many minus to hit modifiers in Kill Team in general, and also back to the first point about taking auto hit weapons like flamers. Suddenly, maybe that's making a bit more sense. And talking of terrain, let's not forget that difficult and dangerous terrain half your movement speed. So if you can get your ranged units that you're not really planning on doing much moving with behind or into, possibly, difficult terrain or dangerous terrain, and get them obscured, suddenly they're really hard to charge. And a final note about how to set up your kill team and your command roster regarding campaign play. But in campaign play, you need 2 units from each fire team to make it out alive for the fire team to earn XP. So for those not clear, you have a campaign roster, which has your 20 men. Then you have a kill team, which has your 100 points. Then your kill team is made up of multiple fire teams. So each data entry here, as it's sometimes called, data sheet, this is one fire team, this is a second fire team. And that's the only way it can be split up. So Drukhari don't really have an issue with this. However, if you are taking orcs, and you've got 5 different fire teams that you're drawing from, well, if I'm only taking 1 commando, because I just want that for some reason, or maybe I'm only taking 1 looter, which is a bit more reasonable, because you want that potential for the long-range damage, but you don't really want 2 because that's a lot of points. Well, that looter, as a single looter, will never gain experience. Something to think about. So anyway, that's just a few hints and tips for any kill team. If you're going to a tournament, check their stance on the command roster. Now, the Nova Open has just come out with their official rules, and so that's given us a bit of guidance about what we can expect. However, while the Nova Open is going to use command roster, that's the name, my local store has just announced a kill team tournament, and they are not using a command roster. My personal stance on this is that the command roster is absolutely brilliant and should be the standard. It allows for a lot of tactical choices, and it's honestly it's part of the game. I mean, let's be honest, it's 20 models tops. That is the maximum you ever have to take, 20 models. I genuinely think we have to have them for kill team to be a solid competitive game. Okay, there we go. All right, I'm going to talk about the Nova Open tournament rules in a future video because those are actually very interesting because they are not using the rules from the mission. And they have different objectives. So very interesting that they've gone that way. And Games Workshop has also just announced their first tournament, going to be at Warhammer World, obviously. And they haven't released the rules pack for that yet. But one can kind of assume it's going to be very, very similar to the Nova Open. And that, of course, will imply certain things if that is the official, this is how we are going forward with kill team tournaments in the future. Okay, thanks very much, everyone. I hope something in there was useful. I hope I didn't waffle on for too long. I hope I can blend the beginning of this video and the end without it looking incredibly obvious that I've done it on 2 different days. But it's not like you can see anything here. Oh, this is a different map. Shit. You know what? Who cares, right? Anyway, thanks very much. If you've liked what you've seen, smash that like button. God, kill me. That's horrible. All right. Enjoy. Bye.